Hey everyone, it's OSK, and today I have for you the complete rune guide for Spellbreak Chapter 2. Spellbreak is a complex game with a lot of different mechanics, but it is my hope that with this rune guide, you will be able to rise to the challenge and improve your Spellbreak gameplay. In this Spellbreak rune guide, you will learn all the different kinds of runes in the game, what they do, their strengths and weaknesses, the different classes you typically want to run them on, and so much more. This guide is great for beginners to the game and will also be a nice refresher for any veterans returning for Spellbreak Chapter 2 and the new Dominion game mode. By the way, if you missed my class guide, please be sure to click the card in the top right of your screen right now. I'll also have it linked in the description below. Now a quick disclaimer, this footage was recorded before the release of Chapter 2, so while the gameplay clips might be slightly different, all the information I have provided is 100% accurate, so you don't have to worry too much. Now, before we get started with the complete rune guide for Spellbreak Chapter 2, please consider leaving a like on the video if you like what you see, and subscribe for more Spellbreak content in the future. I have plenty of guides coming out for Chapter 2. And now with that out of the way, let's get into this. The first rune we'll talk about is the Springstep rune. The Springstep rune possesses a short cooldown and allows the user to quickly jump and descend in a direction. It's very useful for traversing difficult terrain, mixing up your movement, and chasing down your opponents. Plus, you make a beefy landing sound at the end of the animation. For strengths, the rune has a very short cooldown, making it able to be used a lot in battle. In addition to this, the rune also has instant activation, meaning it doesn't have a wind-up animation, so it's great to use when you need to act quickly. A weakness of the Springstep rune, though, is that it doesn't provide any other utility other than just movement, making it a little harder to sneak up on your enemies without them noticing or firing back. It also provides limited vertical movement in Chapter 2. That being said, the rune does offer quite a bit of useful synergy with the following classes. Stoneshaper loves to use this rune in combination with its Bedrock skill to mix up its movement and make players miss. Pyromancer loves using the speed of the Springstep rune to close the distance and dive bomb their opponents. Frostborn loves the ability to take a quick hop and charge up an Ice Lance. Springstep is definitely a great movement rune with a low cooldown that you can use to mix up your movement and seal out some exiles. The second rune on our list is the Dash rune. The Dash rune possesses a short cooldown and allows the user to move quickly in a direction, preserving most of the momentum gathered from the movement before. You can also turn while you move as well. This works very well with some class skills and also when falling from a high place. Dash's movement can also be preserved by levitating at the very end of the animation. For strengths, the rune has a very short cooldown and instant activation, making it a prime tool for spamming movement and dodging spells. Its versatility cannot be understated in any situation. For weaknesses, the Dash rune usually doesn't allow you to travel too far like other runes in this video, and there is no extra utility other than the movement itself. Dash also has a loud audio cue and is easy to spot in a fight when it's activated. Despite the weaknesses, the Dash rune's synergies with virtually every class make it a top pick among the top Spellbreak players. It has a place in every class build just due to its sheer low cooldown as well as some cool interactions. On Stoneshaper, the Bedrock skill can carry its momentum forward by activating Dash at the very bottom of its descent. On Pyromancer, the Firefly skill can boost its flight speed by dashing straight into the ground just before your firewall. Conduits can use Dash for quick repositioning and overload to keep the momentum going. Toxicologists have an easier time reclouding by using Dash to reposition. Overall, the Dash rune is a fantastic tool for spamming quick and fast movement and has a firm place in every class in the game. The third rune on our list is the Chronomaster rune. The Chronomaster rune has a long cooldown and functions by allowing the user to activate a short countdown to rewind time back to the activation location, restoring health and armor damaged during the countdown timer. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but showing is easier than telling in this instance. As you can see, any damage to my health and armor is restored once the countdown is finished, and I rewind back to my initial spot. However, it can be dangerous. You can still be exiled if you lose all of your health and armor in that countdown period, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. For its biggest strength, Chronomaster can be a great tool to outlast your opponent in an enclosed environment, as it provides an easy method to restore your health in the middle of a fight, and can be oppressive as a sustain tool when used correctly. The rune does come with a few weaknesses, however. The rune does not provide any proactive movement, making you susceptible to skill shots and AoEs alike. In fact, the Chronomaster rune provides what is known in the community as anti-movement, as it has a habit of simply yoinking you back further away from your target after its use, and the rune's visual indicator doesn't help much with that either. Chronomaster also does not provide a guarantee of restoring your health, since you can be exiled during the activation period, so you will need to play carefully. The Chronomaster rune is Spellbreak's best example of high risk, high reward, and it's a very high risk at that. However, this risk can be lessened by running the right class with the right rune. Conduit especially has a much easier time running it than most due to the Overload skill's ability to give you extra charges of the rune. Tempest also has a bit of an easier time with the rune, making up for most of its lost movement. I wouldn't recommend running Chronomaster with Tempest, but you will have an easier time moving with Tempest than most other classes. Overall, Chronomaster is a very risky rune to run in Spellbreak, but the rewards of rewinding time can be enough to seal out some exiles in a unique way. The fourth rune is every breaker's best friend with the Wolf's Blood rune. The Wolf's Blood rune possesses a medium cooldown and allows the user to howl into the air and highlight nearby enemy players through walls and terrain even if they're invisible for a long duration. The rune also increases the user's movement speed to make them run extra fast. If you come from League of Legends, this has a very similar theme to Warwick's W. One strength, of course, of the Wolf's Blood rune is that they can see through invisibility. A lot of builds rely on sneaking and getting an early advantage or through third partying, and Wolf's Blood is one way to see that coming and counterattack. The extra movement speed from the rune can also be used to change your position on the map a little quicker and sidestep spells, both of which can be very useful. For weaknesses, the biggest one is the rune does not have any immediate quick movement options the player can use to flee or dodge spells. The only movement the rune provides is the run speed buff, which is lackluster in a lot of circumstances. The rune also forces you to emit an audio cue around you with the howl, which can alert players to your position, so make sure you are careful when you use it. The Wolf's Blood rune has the unique trait of being viable on every class, with the only caveat being that its use fades dramatically inside of combat. It's great if you don't have any other options and need to find out where to navigate to avoid any sticky situations though, so use it wisely to get the jump on your opponents and hunt them down. The fifth rune on our list is the Featherfall rune. The Featherfall rune possesses a long cooldown and allows the user to quickly ascend into the sky for a height advantage before slowly drifting back down to the ground. The descent can also be sped up by shooting a spell or activating a sorcery. It's very useful for getting early height advantage and also traveling up some structures like a tower or mountain. Some strengths of the Featherfall rune are its instant height advantage yet again, and its cooldown regen while in the air. The height advantage almost speaks for itself, allowing for more angles for the Frost Gauntlet and boulders. Its cooldown regen is very cool to say the least. Featherfall is one of the few runes that can have almost 100% uptime, as by the time you touch the ground again, you will most likely have the ability to activate it again, making staying in the air a breeze. The rune does possess some glaring weaknesses, however. Featherfall has innately slow movement speed, which makes for easy hits by a Frost or Lightning Gauntlet. Lightning especially can be difficult to get around as it has a hard time dodging both its spell and AoE sorcery. The Featherfall rune is also cancelled by shooting a spell or sorcery as mentioned earlier, making it mostly effective for traveling utility as opposed to combat. Now, as far as when to use Featherfall, it is best utilized in the early game when no other options are available, as it does provide at least some way to gain a height advantage relatively easily. This makes it viable on any class early on, but you'll want to switch it out with another rune eventually. The sixth rune on our list is the Flight rune. The Flight rune possesses a long cooldown and allows the user to, well, fly forward at a high speed for a short time, traveling a sizable distance in the process after a short wind-up animation. You can maneuver in any direction while flying as well, but doing so will slow you down by quite a bit. You can also jump or levitate to cancel out of the flight animation in case you want to stop short. A few strengths of the Flight Gauntlet that I've listed just now are its great travel distance and speed, as well as the ability to mix up your movement mid-flight. This makes the rune very versatile, able to be used in many different situations for different purposes. A few weaknesses, however, are its relatively long cooldown, the fact that the flight speed is reduced dramatically while turning, and its susceptibility to being tracked by lightning and frost. There is no cover in the skies, so running a flight rune does carry with it some significant risk. You'll need to maneuver well to mitigate this challenge. You'll also need to keep in mind the wind-up animation, as you can get exiled before you ever truly take flight. The best classes to run with the flight rune are as follows. Conduit is a great option due to its ability to recharge its cooldown with the Overload skill, and therefore get twice the value out of its travel distance, making it great for escaping. You can also fly vertically to try and rain down some spells and sorceries from above. Another great class to run this on for that purpose is Stone Shaper. By flying high in the sky, you'll be able to see where best to toss a boulder or two for some big damage, and you'll be able to close the distance between you and your opponent fairly easily if you need to. By using the flight rune effectively, you'll be able to fly in and out of danger at will. Just mind the lightning and frost. The 7th rune on our list is the Teleport rune. The Teleport rune possesses a long cooldown and allows the user to travel to a target location almost instantly after a brief wind-up animation. It's easily the fastest repositioning tool in the entire game, and while using it well does take a bit of practice, when mastered it can be deadly in the right hands. Some strength the Teleport rune has is of course its instant travel time. Unlike the rune we mentioned before, Flight, Teleport does not have the weakness of being easily tracked by lightning or frost, so it's a much safer rune to use while in combat. The Teleport rune also allows the user to turn their character model while winding up, making it look like you're going one way when you're really going another. Your character will also stay turned towards the last place you look before you teleport. Some weaknesses the teleport possesses, however, are the wind-up animation itself and a long cooldown. Both of these serve to stall the value that you can get from the rune, and mistiming an engagement can mean certain death in some circumstances. Another important weakness to know is that it is very easy to exile yourself in environments, as its aiming mechanism can be flawed at times. You'll need to be extra careful not to teleport outside of the zone. In terms of which classes to run teleport on, Conduit and Frostborn tend to be the best homes for it. You'll need to stick to long range most of the time, and these two classes excel in that. Conduit especially can use the Overload skill to give yourself an extra charge of teleport and flee sticky situations, and Frostborn can use teleport and Frozen Alacrity for excellent spacing as well. Once the space has been made, both classes can launch a long range assault from afar. A bit of care with the long cooldown of the Teleport rune will go a long way, and so will the long range spells. Use the rune to maintain your distance and snipe down the competition. The penultimate rune for our guide today is the Invisibility rune. The Invisibility rune possesses a medium cooldown and allows the user to turn invisible and gain movement speed for a long period of time until the duration expires, until the user performs an action, or until the user is damaged. Footstep audio is still active while you are invisible, and other players can see a shimmy where you are, so be careful not to run directly in front of someone. Some players can see this better than others. Some strengths of the Invisibility rune are the long duration, the increased speed, and the synergy the rune has with the Toxicologist class. The Outbreak skill from the Toxicologist class allows the user to deal more damage with their Toxic Gauntlet if the user is invisible, so Invisibility is a favorite among Toxicologist users especially. Some weaknesses, however, are that the Invisibility rune does not have any immediate movement options like dash and Springstep. There is a short wind-up animation, and you can be hit out of invisibility, especially with effects like Combust and Ignite from the Pyromancer class. This is a rune best used to get the jump on an enemy and not one to try to escape, so be careful when and where you activate it. The best classes to run with the Invisibility rune are of course Toxicologist for the reason listed before with the Outbreak skill. Conduit is great too, and Frostborn is as well. With Conduit, the Overload skill allows you to have an extra charge of the rune, and with Frostborn, going invisible can allow you to position yourself on a vantage point to then rain ice lances from above. Overall, the Invisibility rune is a great tool for repositioning and sneak attacking your opponents. Once you find yourself in combat, you'll want to be very careful with how you use it to escape and move around the battlefield. The 9th and final rune for this guide is the Invisibility rune's better looking, more successful older brother, the Shadowstep rune. The Shadowstep rune possesses a medium cooldown and allows the user to instantly dash in a target direction and go invisible for a short time. This combines the dash and invisibility rune quite nicely and is the #1 rune used for toxicologists in the game. The rune also has an activation cloud and audio cue that alerts nearby enemies, but works well thematically. For Shadowstep's strengths, the rune has instant activation with no wind-up animation. The rune provides you that extra utility for disguising your location and animations while invisible, and of course the synergy the rune has with Toxicologist's Outbreak skill cannot be understated. The Shadowstep rune's weaknesses include having a cooldown longer than both Dash and Springstep, so it is outpaced in fights with those two runes present. Shadowstep's thematic cloud does provide a visual cue, letting you see the direction where a Shadowstep user has dashed to, and you can still be hit out of invisibility with a large AoE or well-placed spell. Much like the Invisibility rune, the top 3 classes you'll want to use Shadowstep on are Toxicologist, Conduit, and Frostborn. Toxicologist loves using Shadowstep to quickly reposition and outbreak opponents from close range. Conduits can more safely utilize Shadowstep due to the Overload skill providing an extra rune charge, and Frostborn can use Shadowstep to disguise incoming snipes by hiding the first part charging animation, and then surprising the opponent with some quick damage. As a whole, the Shadowstep rune provides a fun alternative to Dash and Springstep for a few builds for a slightly longer cooldown, and especially for Toxicologist. Use it to bamboozle your opponents and strike from unexpected angles. And that is the end of the complete rune guide for Spellbreak Chapter 2 for newcomers and returning vets in 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching up to this point. Keep in mind that this video was made and written before Chapter 2 is out, so be aware of any changes made in the footage for when the new chapter is out. I did make sure to provide correct written information though, so you should be good as far as that goes. I hope you guys all learned something today, and I want you to answer something for me. What rune do you like the most, and if you're new, what rune can you not wait to use out there? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, like I said at the beginning, please be sure to give a like if you liked the video and it helped you out, and subscribe for more Spellbreak Chapter 2 guides in the future. Also be sure to follow the socials down below. I have a Twitter and Discord you can join. Well, that's going to do it for me. I've been OSK. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you all out there.